everybody, and welcome to another episode of Supreme Talk. And today is actually going to be a more serious conversation. And yes, I do want your comments. I do want your feedback. I am interested in what you guys have to say. Share this video. Also, whether you like it or don't like it, leave a comment. Let me know. Let me know where you hit me up from. But today's episode is one that was sent to me by a friend of mine, because her whole thing was, I want you to do a video on this. Basically, she wanted to have a conversation. And it was about the Phoenix police officers that gave what has been labeled an extreme reaction to shoplifting. And one of the things I talk about on my YouTube channel, Supreme Decisions, is the duties of police officers, because I give the actual law that they must abide by, and also use words that apply to law, because law is exact. Now, the reason a lot of people are up in arms about this is because when you're watching multiple videos and you're watching multiple angles, because there were several people videotaping the entire incident, and you hear the language the police officers are using versus the language of the bystanders, and then you get to understand that people are actually defending a police officer pulling a gun out on a family that is not armed and saying, I'm going to bust a cap in your head.
Hitmen.
Get out the f***ing car! You are gonna get out the f***ing car right now! Get your hands off! I'm gonna put a cat right now!
Because of a 4-year-old shoplifting out of the dollar store. Now, here's where I know a lot of people are gonna have a little issue with what I'm about to say, but it doesn't change the facts. When we're talking about shoplifting, we're talking about theft or retail theft. It is not a criminal action until it gets to the point of $1,000. Prior to $1,000, it is a civil action, which is why you cannot chase down someone outside of a Walmart or snatch someone up and drag them back into a Target. All of those things are illegal and open you up to civil liability. So when you're dealing with a security guard that wants to be overzealous about shoplifting, if it's not $1,000, they cannot touch you. So the reaction of a police officer that is trained and has on their person at any given time 6 to 7 non-lethal weapons, and their first reaction is to grab their one lethal weapon and yell out things such as, I will put a cap in your head. Now, let's examine this, because I speak about all the time proper police procedure. I speak about all the time at when something is blown out of proportion, the one thing everybody above will do is cover their own ass. Since this incident has gone viral for the most part, you've seen the police chief come out and state that the actions are reprehensible. You've seen the mayor come out and disavow the actions of the police officers. I'm going to give you a little bit of news on those things, because both of them are just acts to cover their own ass. The day after this incident happened in Phoenix, there was an officer by the name of Cameron Kirby in Rock Hill, South Carolina, that did pretty much the same exact thing, because I just said that a police officer's first line of duty is preservation of life. And I also stated that they have 6 to 7 non-lethal weapons. available to them at any given time, but their first response is for their one lethal weapon. Cameron Kirby found himself at a traffic stop with a family that was unarmed, and he decided to pull his gun out. You know, his one lethal weapon on an unarmed family for a traffic infraction. He was relieved of duty immediately. Why? Because a police officer's first line of duty is the preservation of life. So them grabbing their only lethal weapon in a non-life-threatening situation is a violation to their civic duty. This is something that also brings back certain memories, because we just had Geronimo Yanez. He was acquitted for blatantly murdering Philando Castile at a traffic stop. He was fired, but you saw him in the video after being notified, hey, I have a license to carry. He did not reach. Philando did no reaching. Geronimo Yanez's partner even asked, why did you shoot? Because Philando wasn't reaching. His partner asked, why did you shoot? Because there was no threat. And here's the next line of that. Because the reason why I stated the previous statements by the police chief of Phoenix and the mayor of Phoenix as BS is because, one, their attempt to cover their own ass will more than likely be thwarted, simply because this family in Phoenix that had these police officers saying they will bust a cap in someone's head for a shoplifting incident by a 4-year-old. You have the backing of a billionaire with unlimited resources, which now allows people to divvy into the numbers. It gets you to get a real bird's eye view of what we're really talking about. Here's why the city of Phoenix, as well as the police force of Phoenix, will be held liable for the actions of their officers. When you're looking at the Phoenix police officers' website, and they have a section just for officer-involved shootings, I thought that was odd to begin with, but then I started looking at the numbers across the country. And the thing that got me was that police department is required for their officers, in order for them to be out in the field, out engaging with the public, a minimum of 880 hours is required. In their own training material, it states there must be an imminent show of force or danger in order for them to pull their weapon. Now, just that, 880 hours must be imminent danger or show of force. When you're talking about this family had the police pull in behind them. Yes, they were still behind the wheel. Yes, they were still in the vehicle. What was their show of force? I'm gonna wait on that, because I know there's gonna be a couple people that actually back the actions of the police officers, which clearly violated their own policy. What was their imminent danger to pull their weapon?
Don't worry, I'll wait.
It did not exist. When you're listening to bystanders say,
Hey! Whoa, sir, come down! Can someone just, defuse the situation here?
you guys need to de-escalate. When you're listening to bystanders tell police,
Can I get the babies? Excuse me? Can I get the kids?
why are the bystanders more calm than the police? Why was Philando Castile's fiance more calm than Geronimo Yanis, why are these people that are involved in these actions more calm than the people that are trained to experience this on a daily basis? Why is that the case? Now, and then you go looking deeper into the numbers, and what I found most interesting is the simple fact that the Phoenix Police Department, the place that are known for the hell camps, for having people outside waiting for court in 110-degree weather, outside in aluminum boxes for the most part, waiting for court, not convicted, but waiting for court, and proud of it. This place, they're involved in more officer-involved shootings than any other police department in the country. I'm going to say that one more time. These guys are shooting more than the Golden State Warriors and the Houston Rockets and Chicago and Washington, D.C. combined. So if they're required to have 880 hours of training prior to interacting with the public, and they're involved in any more than any other police department in the country, are they training them to shoot? Because I gotta ask that, because this is the same police department that had Philip Brailsford. His sergeant was Charles Langley. He's the police officer that executed Daniel Shaver in a hotel room, giving him commands that were, unless he was a contortionist, were unable to be followed. You look at Joseph DeMarco, who was also involved in multiple shootings, also had multiple disciplinary actions or disciplinary write-ups. He shot Monty Merkler. And I'm saying that to say this: when you have your officers, they're involved in more officer-involved shootings than any other police department in the country. You're looking at the fact that either you're training them to shoot, you're telling them to shoot, or you're training them to fear everyone and not follow guidelines, not follow law. When you look at the number of police officers in that department, more than 1/3 of the police officers in that department have been involved in officer-involved shootings. More than half have been involved in multiple shootings. More than half have multiple disciplinary actions against them, which include civilian complaints and departmental write-ups. Now, here's why. Because I gave it to you a few seconds ago, I'm giving it to you now. The reason you have the police chief attempting to cover her own ass, you have the mayor attempting to cover his own ass, is because they made a choice to keep these officers on the street after knowing these officers couldn't follow direction. They made a choice to continue paying these officers, knowing that they could not fulfill their duties properly. They knew these officers were a liability, still yet they kept them on force. You look at Stephen Shannon, Esteban Flores. They shot and killed Caden Clark or Danielle Jacobs, whichever one or however one you knew. And the story went that one officer was looking for a non-lethal weapon, while the other officer fired his weapon, killing Caden Clark. We also had here in Texas where Roy Oliver shot and killed 15-year-old Jordan Edwards. He was sentenced to murder. You hear me talk about holding these police officers liable for wrongful death. Why?
Officer Hoyt, job number 1, preserve life.
Because their first duty is preservation of life. Now, I know I say a lot of these things a lot. I really do. Because at some point, I can't be the only one being tired of this action. I can't be the only one that's looking at this and saying, this is like, really? Is this really what we are? These men and women get up one day and make a choice. They make a conscious decision to apply to become police officers because they want to do good. They make a conscious decision to get up every morning once they're hired, to put on the uniform of this police officer, of this person that's supposed to be doing good, and supposedly go out to stop the bad guys. They go out and they want us to look at them in a certain eye. And here's where I come for the police apologist. Here's where I know the comments are coming, and I want those comments. Because here's my question. Because there are two common threads in everything that I've talked about today. From the multiple police shootings, to the police deaths, to the first reaction of grabbing a gun as a police officer. The common threads are, I was in fear of my life, and all of them, when video has been made available, because I've said more than 76% of all police interactions and shootings, video does not come from police who have body cameras on. But they're supposed to be the good guy. They're saying they're in fear for their life when they know this is a dangerous job prior to them applying. And then, lastly, just like these officers, they lied in their reports. If you know what you're doing is right, if you are the good guy, if you are the person that we're supposed to follow, trust, and believe in, why are you lying? Why are you blatantly lying? Why are you covering up what you've done? Why don't you want people to see it? Because you're not turning over tape of this. Why is that if you are doing what you are supposed to do and you know it's right? That's the show for today. Leave your comments, and I'll see you next time.